Have you ever looked at your dog and felt something was off? Not the barking, not the whining, just a kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels wrong. Maybe they used to run to the door every time you came home, tail-wagging eyes lit up. Now, they barely lift their head. You tell yourself it's just age. Maybe they're tired. Maybe it's the weather. But what if it's none of that? What if that quiet, that stillness, that change you've been brushing off, was your dog's way of begging for help? Dogs don't complain. They don't write it on their face when they're in pain. They just stay close, stay silent, and hope we'll notice before it's too late. And the truth is, most of us don't. Not because we don't care, but because no one ever taught us how to see it. That's why this video matters. Because today, I'm going to show you 20 subtle, often overlooked signs that your dog may be suffering in silence. Signs that feel small, a missed meal, a quiet corner, but carry a message so big it could save their life. Some of these signs, I missed them too, and I still carry that guilt. So if you've ever wondered, is something wrong, or blamed yourself after it was too late, please stay with me, especially for the last sign. Because number one isn't just the most heartbreaking, it's the one most people don't survive seeing twice. Ready? Let's start with sign number 20. It's something most people excuse away, but you won't not after this. You ever notice how he sleeps more now? Maybe you even smiled at first, thinking he's finally resting. Good for him. And yes, dogs do sleep a lot, up to 14 hours a day, especially as they age. But there's a difference between restful sleep and shutting down. The kind of sleep I'm talking about isn't peaceful. It's not stretched out under the sun or curled up after a belly rub. It's that flat, heavy, motionless sleep eyes, half-open ears, unbothered by sound, body limp, no spark. Have you seen that look on his face lately? Like the world could pass him by and he wouldn't care. Most owners assume it's nothing. He's just older now, they say. He's earned the right to nap. But here's the hard truth. When a dog starts sleeping more, not after exercise, not at bedtime, but in the middle of the day, while you're still moving, it can be a signal. One that his brain is checking out, that his body is retreating, that joy no longer pulls him up. It's not just sleep. It's a slow fade. You ever had a day where you didn't want to get out of bed? Not because you were tired, but because you didn't see the point. That's how dogs experience emotional fatigue. Only they can't say it. They just lie down and stay there. So don't brush it off. Don't say he's just tired. Ask instead, is he still living or is he just enduring? Because when sleep becomes escape, it's time to look deeper. And deeper we will go. Because what comes after this is what happens when joy stops pulling them forward. Let's look at sign number 19 and ask, what does it mean when the leash no longer matters? Remember how he used to react to the sound of the leash. That jingle, that snap of the clip, it used to mean everything. His ears would perk, tail would start thumping. He'd spin in circles at the door like you just offered him the world. But now, you grab the leash, and nothing. He doesn't move. Maybe his eyes glance your way for a second. Maybe not even that. The leash, once a promise of joy, has become just another sound in the background. And maybe at first you thought he's tired today, or maybe he's just comfy. But what if he's not just ignoring the leash? What if he's stopped hoping you ever lost excitement for something you used to love? That quiet disappointment of realizing it no longer brings you up like it used to. That's what this is for him. Not laziness, not boredom. It's detachment. In behavioral science, that's called diminished reactivity, when a dog no longer responds to previously joyful triggers. It's often one of the earliest signs of emotional disengagement. It doesn't happen overnight. It fades slowly, as if the light in them is dimming, and you didn't see it flicker. So here's the real question: is he ignoring the leash, or giving up on what it used to mean? Because when a dog no longer lights up at the thought of leaving the house with you, it's not about the walk. It's about something deeper inside. And here's the part most owners miss: when joy stops being enough to wake them, the body starts to follow. Want to know what that looks like? Let's keep going. Sign number 18 is so quiet, so subtle. Most people never notice what he's trying to say. But you will. You walk into the room and he's lying there, back turned, head low, eyes somewhere else. Maybe you pause for a second, waiting for him to notice you. Maybe you even call his name. But he doesn't turn, doesn't shift, just keeps facing the other way. You tell yourself he's resting. He doesn't need to get up every time. And that's true. But what if it's not about getting up? What if it's about no longer wanting to look at you? Not out of anger, but out of disconnect. Dogs are social by nature. Even when they're lying down, they'll usually position themselves where they can keep an eye on you, track your movement, stay involved, even from across the room. So when that orientation changes, when he starts lying with his back to you, when he stops watching your every move, something's changed. You ever felt so low you couldn't face someone who loved you? That quiet shame, that heavy pull to turn away. It's not so different in dogs. Facing away can be a subtle form of withdrawal. Not physical pain, but emotional retreat. And the heartbreaking part, most owners take it personally or dismiss it completely. But this isn't distance. It's distress. You still think it's nothing. Then ask yourself, when did he last seek you out without being called? When was the last time he laid down and looked at you? Just looked. Because the moment they start turning their back, they're not pushing you away. They're pulling into themselves. And that's why the next sign matters even more. Because it's what happens when even your touch becomes too much. You ready to look at that sign, Fiber 17, might hurt more than you expect. You reach out to pet him the way you always have. Maybe it's just a scratch behind the ear, or a soft rub along his back. You've done it 1,000 times. But this time, he flinches, or moves away. Or maybe worse, he just freezes. And for a moment, you hesitate. Did you do something wrong? Did it hurt him? Or maybe you think he's just not in the mood right now. But let me ask you something. When was the last time he leaned into your hand, instead of away from it? Dogs crave touch. It's how they feel safe, how they bond, how they heal. So when they start avoiding it, especially from you, it's never random. Sometimes it's physical pain, a sore muscle, a tender joint. But often, it's something deeper, something they can't make sense of, so they withdraw from even the kindest hand. You ever felt so overwhelmed that even someone's hug felt like too much? Not because you didn't want it, but because your mind was too loud to let it in. That's what this might be. Emotional overload. When a dog's nervous system is fried, touch doesn't soothe it. Overloads. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Knowing that the one thing you've always done to comfort him might now be the thing he's quietly trying to escape. So, the next time he pulls away, don't take it personally. But don't ignore it either. Because when touch becomes tension, connection starts to break. And when connection fades, they go looking for somewhere else to feel safe. You want to know where he goes next. You might not like the answer, but you need to hear it. Sign number 16 is what happens when he stops reaching out and starts hiding. One day he's not on the couch, not by your feet, not in his usual spot by the door. You call his name, check the room. Then you find him, under the bed, behind the washing machine, curled into a corner of the closet, eyes open but far away. And your first thought, maybe he's just looking for a quiet place to nap. Maybe the sun moved and he followed the shade. But deep down, something feels off. Why is he hiding? Let me ask you something. Has he ever done that before? Or is this new dogs don't hide unless they feel unsafe? It's instinct from pain, fear, or emotional overload. When the world feels too loud, too bright, too much, they search for dark, enclosed spaces. Not because they don't love you, but because they can't face the world, not even yours. You ever walked into a room just to be alone? Not to rest, but to escape. Not because someone hurt you, but because being seen was too hard in that moment. That's what this is. And it's not just sadness. It's a sign of survival. When a dog starts hiding like this, it means they've moved beyond discomfort. They're trying to cope with something they don't understand. Maybe it's illness. Maybe it's grief. Maybe it's both. And here's the hardest part most people don't notice until it becomes a pattern. Until hiding becomes his new normal. Until he's only visible when he needs to eat or pee, and then vanishes again. So if you've seen him slip into a shadow lately, don't wait. Because where he hides next might not just be a room. It might be inside himself. And if you think that sounds too dramatic, wait until you see what his water bowl says when no one's watching. Sign number 15 is coming, and it's one of the clearest cries for help his body will ever give you. You hear it again, that soft sound of lapping water in the middle of the night. You're half asleep, but your ears catch it. It's the second, maybe third time tonight. And suddenly you realize he's been drinking more than usual. A lot more. You tell yourself it's just the weather. Maybe the food was salty. Or maybe you forgot how often he's always done this. But something nags at you. Because he doesn't drink like that during the day. Just at night. Just when it's quiet. Just when no one's watching. So you ask yourself, is he thirsty? Or is something else happening? In dogs, excessive drinking, especially at night, can signal several serious issues. Kidney trouble, diabetes, hormonal imbalances, even emotional distress. When their body is under pressure, when something's wrong inside, they try to compensate. They drink, and drink, and drink. But here's the part that hurts. This might be the only signal they can give you. They can't say, I feel off. They can't say, my stomach aches, or I'm stressed. They just go to the bowl. Again and again. And what do most people do? They fill the water. Maybe laugh about how thirsty he is. Maybe post a video of it. But no one asks, what is he trying to flush out? What is his body begging to balance? If the bowl is always empty, what is he trying to fix? So next time you hear him drink at 2 a.m., don't just roll over. Listen, because sometimes the things they do in the dark are the ones that should worry you most in the light. And that brings us to the next change, something even more visible. What if your dog's body is shrinking or growing, and you didn't change a single thing? Let's talk about sign number 14. It's about weight, but the message runs much deeper. You go to clip his harness, and suddenly it feels looser. You run your hand along his side and feel more bone than you used to. Or maybe the opposite. He looks thicker, slower, heavier, but you haven't changed his food. And you stop for a second and think, has he lost weight or gained? Then you brush it off. He's aging. That happens. But does it? Here's the thing. Dogs don't gain or lose weight without a reason, especially not quickly, and especially not when nothing else around them has changed. No new food, no new routine, just a body that's shifting in silence. So what's really going on? When a dog drops weight without explanation, it can be a sign of internal stress, chronic anxiety, digestive trouble, hormonal imbalance, pain. On the flip side, unexplained weight gain can come from thyroid issues, inflammation, or reduced activity due to emotional shutdown. Either way, the body is telling you something the mouth can't. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, when did this happen to me? That slow, invisible change that creeps up until one day it's undeniable. That's what it's like for them. Only they're not looking in mirrors. You are. And you're the only one who can say something's different. So don't wait until the ribs are sticking out or the belly's dragging low. Notice the small changes. Track them. Ask questions. Because when weight shifts, it's not just the body reacting. It's the whole system, physical, emotional, hormonal, calling for help. And if that system is under pressure, where do you think it shows next? Let me show you. Sign number 13 isn't about how they look. It's about how they stand. And when they start guarding their own body, something deeper is going on. Have you ever watched him walk and thought he looks a little off? Maybe his back seems curved. Maybe he moves slower, stiffer, with a kind of caution you hadn't noticed before. Or maybe when he stands still, one paw is raised slightly, or his back legs are tucked just a little tighter than they used to be. And you tell yourself he's just getting older, because it's easier to believe that than to ask what he might be trying to protect. But here's what most people don't know. Dogs instinctively guard the areas where they feel most vulnerable. Their belly, their joints, their spine. They don't whine. They don't limp dramatically. They shift their posture, subtly, quietly. Enough to stay safe without alarming you unless you're really paying attention. Think about it. If something hurt inside you, your stomach, your back, wouldn't you move differently? Wouldn't you tense, hunch, adjust how you stood or lay down? So let me ask you, when was the last time you really looked at how he carries himself? Not just whether he's walking, but how he's walking. Because a raised paw might not be cute. It might be protection. A slouched back might not be stiffness. It might be discomfort. And when he curls up tighter than usual, when he refuses to lie belly up like he used to, it's not because he doesn't trust you. It's because something's hurting him, and he doesn't know how to say it. So watch the way he moves. Watch the way he rests. Because if his body is guarding itself, you should be guarding him too. And if this is how his body reacts, wait until you see how his nerves respond. Sign number 12 is one most people laugh off. But behind the shaking, there's something serious waiting. You're sitting on the couch, and he's just a few feet away. Everything's calm. The TV's on, nothing loud, nothing unusual, and yet he's shaking. Not from cold, not from excitement, just trembling, quiet, almost invisible, unless you're really looking. And maybe you smile at first. Maybe you think he's dreaming, or he must be chilly. So you throw on a blanket, give him a gentle pat. But the shaking doesn't stop, and it keeps happening. At night, in quiet moments, when there's no clear reason. So what is his body trying to tell you? Trembling isn't always fear in the obvious way we expect it. Sometimes it's not fear of thunder or strangers. Sometimes it's the body's final outlet for stress that's been building and has nowhere else to go. It's neurological, it's emotional, and it's real. Have you ever held your breath without realizing it? Ever had your hand tremble after a long day, Even if nothing bad happened, that's how stress works, when it lingers. And in dogs it shows up in the smallest shakes, barely there, but full of meaning. So don't laugh it off. Don't call it quirky or adorable. Ask yourself, what's building inside him that his body has to release like this? Because trembling is a language. And if you don't listen now, it may soon speak louder through pain, withdrawal, even collapse. Still think it's nothing, then look closer. Because sign number 11 is what happens when the ears, yes, the ears start sending warnings no one was trained to read. But you will, starting now. You walk past him and notice his ears not perked, not relaxed, but pinned flat against his head. Maybe one more than the other. Maybe both. Or he tilts his head slightly, just enough to catch your attention. It looks curious, almost cute. And you think he's just listening. Or maybe that's just how he holds his ears now. But what if it isn't? Pinned ears in dogs aren't always a reaction to noise or scolding. Sometimes they're a subtle pain response, a quiet flinch that stays locked in place. It's their way of shrinking without leaving, like bracing for something that already hurts. And that head tilt, it might not be playfulness. It might be his way of trying to balance something that feels off inside in his ears, in his head, in his nervous system. Inner ear infections, inflammation, even neurological strain can show up in those small, strange angles. So let me ask you, when did his ears stop perking when you said his name? When did he stop tilting his head like he was listening and start holding it, like he was confused? You've seen that look before. That little hesitation. That moment when you know something's not right, but you can't put your finger on it. Don't wait until he's crying or stumbling. The ears often speak first before the body fails, before the joy disappears. And if you're the one he trusts most, you're the one who has to notice. Because when even his ears start telling you something's wrong, it's time to ask, what else is he doing to comfort himself that might actually be hurting him? Let's talk about sign chapter 10. It's one of the most misunderstood behaviors in dogs. And it happens right under your nose. You're sitting nearby, and there it is again, that soft, repetitive sound. He's licking, same paw, over and over. Sometimes it's his front, sometimes the back. Sometimes you don't notice until the fur is wet or missing. And at first, you think it's just grooming. Maybe allergies, maybe a bug bite. You tell yourself, dogs lick, that's normal. But is it? And why does he keep going? Even when it's red, even when it's raw. Here's something most people never hear from their vet. Excessive licking, especially on the same spot, isn't always physical. In fact, it's often emotional. A coping mechanism. A way for your dog to self-soothe when the world inside or around feels too much. You ever seen someone bite their nails until they bleed, or pick at their skin when they're anxious? That's what this is. It's his way of calming himself when he doesn't know what else to do. And what's worse, the more he licks, the more he needs to lick. It becomes a cycle. Pain creates stress. Stress fuels the licking. Licking causes more pain. And all of it happens while you're thinking he's just itchy. So ask yourself, has it become a habit? Has the fur started thinning? Are the paws discolored, irritated pink? Because he's not just fixing a tickle. He's trying to fix something deeper. Something he can't reach any other way. And if licking doesn't work, what's next? That's what sign number 9 is about. When the need to escape moves from the paw to the same spot again and again, like he's trying to scratch his way out of something he can't explain. You've seen it more than once. He lifts his leg, twists his body just right, and starts scratching same spot, same side, same motion. Not once or twice, but over and over. You stop him. He starts again. And maybe you've told yourself it's just dry skin, or he's shedding, or the classic, it's probably fleas. But here's the thing. Have you ever found fleas? Or are you just assuming? Because when a dog keeps targeting the same place, especially when there's no rash, no redness, no obvious cause, it's not always physical. Sometimes it's psychological. A repetitive behavior triggered by internal tension. Mental unrest, unresolved discomfort that's trying to find a way out. Think about yourself. Ever had a twitch that wouldn't stop a habit you couldn't explain? A little compulsion that only showed up when you were overwhelmed? Dogs don't twirl their hair or tap their feet. They scratch, they lick, they chew. And when it becomes obsessive, it's no longer random. It's ritual. A way of managing emotions they don't know how to release. So ask yourself, does he scratch more when you're not home? After loud sounds, when routines change, because when he returns to that same spot, it's not because it itches. It's because something in him won't rest. And if his mind is running in circles, his body will follow. But scratching is just one surface-level sign. What happens when what's wrong goes deeper into the lungs? The breath, the rhythm of life itself. Let's move to sign number 8. It's something many people dismiss as heat or age, but it might be the most urgent warning of all. You're not outside. He hasn't run. The weather isn't hot. But there he is, mouth open, tongue out, chest moving faster than usual. Maybe you even hear it, a faint wheeze, a sharp breath, a sound you haven't heard before. It stops, then comes back. You pause. You watch. And still you tell yourself, he's just regulating his temperature. But is he? Let me ask you this. Would you be breathing that hard? If nothing had happened. Panting isn't always about heat. In fact, when there's no exertion, no sunshine, no chase, and your dog's still panting, it's usually something else. Anxiety, pain, heart stress. Even conditions like asthma, laryngeal paralysis, or early signs of heart failure can begin with this one simple shift. The breath no longer flows the way it should. You ever felt that flutter in your chest when something's off? That shallow inhale when your thoughts are racing? Dogs feel that too. The difference is, they can't tell you when it starts. They can only hope you notice. And what about that wheeze? That little gasp you only hear at night, or when they sleep too still? Does it sound the same as last month? Or has something shifted? Because breath is life. And when it changes even slightly, it should make you stop and listen. Not panic. Just notice. Because the earlier you catch this, the more you can do. And if his breathing is already strained, what do you think happens to his appetite? What happens when the body that's gasping no longer wants to eat? That's where we go next. Sign number 7. It's one of the loudest quiet cries your dog can give. Don't miss it. It starts small. One skipped meal. A little less interest in breakfast. You chalk it up to the weather, or maybe you gave too many treats earlier. But then it happens again. He sniffs the bowl, looks at you, walks away. Even the treat he used to love untouched. And you wait. You tell yourself he'll eat when he's hungry. You try again tomorrow. But each time a little piece of you wonders, is something wrong? Let me ask you, when was the last time he ate with excitement? Dogs don't skip meals for no reason. They live for food. So when they stop eating, not just one day, but 2, 3 more. It's not about being picky. It's not about flavor. It's about something inside them that's no longer responding. Physical pain, nausea, emotional fatigue, or a deeper exhaustion that even hunger can't cut through. You ever been so stressed or heartbroken that you lost your appetite, that nothing tasted right, even when you were starving? That's what this might be. His way of saying, I don't have the strength to want anything right now. And yes, it might be something simple, but it might not, because loss of appetite is often the last sign before a serious decline, the body's way of slowing everything down. So, don't wait 3 days. Don't wait for weight loss. Don't assume it'll pass. If he's turning away from food, he's turning away from fuel from life. And if he no longer wants to eat, what does that say about how he feels inside? Because next, we'll talk about a behavior that looks innocent, even funny, but often means his nervous system is stretched to its limit. You've seen it before. Sign number 6 is the yawn you thought meant boredom. It doesn't. You're grabbing your keys, reaching for your bag, and there it is again, that slow, exaggerated yawn. He stretches his mouth wide, tongue curls, eyes blink, and you smile. He's just waking up, you think. He's relaxed, maybe tired. But then it happens again, and again. Sometimes, even when he hasn't moved. No nap, no play, just yawning. Have you ever wondered why dogs do yawn when they're tired? Sure. But when it happens repeatedly in quiet moments, or especially right before you leave, that's not tiredness. That's tension. It's a calming signal. One of the clearest ways dogs try to manage internal stress. Their hearts racing, their stomachs tight, and the only outlet they know, a yawn. You ever taken a deep breath before walking into something difficult? Or found yourself yawning in a stressful room, not because you were sleepy, but because your body needed to settle down? That's what he's doing. Trying to calm himself, without alarming you. And if you're seeing this when routines shift, when you stand, when you reach for shoes, when your tone changes, it's not random. He's reading the room and reacting. So the next time he yawns when you grab your coat, ask yourself, is he resting or is he bracing? Because 1 yawn can be cute, 2 can be dismissed, but 3, 4, every time you move, that's his body whispering, I'm overwhelmed. And if his nervous system is already that stretched, what happens when you walk out the door and leave him alone? That's where we go next. Sign number 5 is what he does when he thinks you're not listening. But now you will. You close the door behind you. It's quiet, or at least you think it is. But later maybe a neighbor mentions something, or you set up a camera. And there it is, that soft, aching sound. A low cry, a whimper, not loud, not dramatic, just steady, like a whisper that never stops. And suddenly, your heart sinks, because you had no idea. You thought he was fine while you were gone, asleep, waiting, maybe a little bored. But now you wonder, how long has he been doing this? And why didn't he show it when you were still in the room? Dogs are pack animals. When they feel abandoned, even temporarily, their instinct isn't to bark for attention, it's to grieve in silence. That whimper isn't a tantrum. It's not spoiled behavior. It's helplessness. A quiet panic that builds when the one they rely on disappears from view. Let me ask you something. Have you ever held back tears until the door closed, ever stayed strong in front of someone, only to break down the second they walked away? That's what this is. And if you've heard that sound or found scratches on the door-chewed corners, torn up cushions, don't rush to scold. That's not destruction. That's a desperate attempt to say, I don't know how to be alone. So instead of asking, why does he do this? Maybe ask, what does he feel when I leave? Because when whimpers echo in empty rooms, they're not asking for treats. They're asking for peace. And if being alone feels this unbearable, what do you think he does when he's with you, but terrified you'll disappear again? Let's talk about sign number 4, You might have thought it was sweet, but there's more to it than that. You get up to make coffee. He follows. You walk to the bathroom. He's right behind you. You sit on the couch, and before your body settles, he's already curled up by your feet. Every room, every step, every single time. And at first it feels sweet. You smile. He just loves me, you think. He's my shadow. And yes, there's love in that. Of course there is. But what if it's not just affection? What if it's anxiety? Let me ask you something. Does he settle when you leave the room, or does he get up even when he was resting just to be closer again? Dogs don't follow you out of boredom. They follow you out of need. Sometimes emotional, sometimes protective. But when it's constant, when he can't rest, unless he knows exactly where you are, that's no longer bonding. That's fear. Have you ever clung to someone not because you didn't trust them, but because you didn't trust the world without them? That's what this looks like. He's not just walking behind you. He's bracing, tracking, trying to make sure the only steady thing in his life doesn't disappear. And if he panics when a door closes, if his breathing changes when you step outside, if he stands by the window like the world's about to fall apart, then this isn't love in motion. It's survival. So before you laugh and call him clingy, ask yourself what's making him feel unsafe. Because if he's following you out of fear, not comfort, that means the fear is already there, even when you're around. And if that closeness doesn't soothe him anymore, what do you think is happening inside his eyes? Sign number 3 is the moment you realize something deeper has gone quiet. You used to feel it. That look. The one where he locked eyes with you like he could read your thoughts before you even spoke. The way his gaze followed you from room to room. The way his eyes lit up before you even reached for the leash. But now, something's changed. He still looks, but doesn't really see. His eyes are open, but distant. They don't track you the way they used to. They don't respond to your voice with that tiny spark. It's like the connection's still there, but weaker, dimmer, slipping. And maybe you've told yourself, he's tired, or he's just getting older. But deep down, a part of you wonders, did I lose him while he was still here? Let me ask you this. When was the last time you looked into his eyes and felt like he was truly with you? Because blank eyes, the kind that stop reacting, stop connecting, aren't about vision. They're about emotion, about presence. When dogs shut down emotionally, their gaze is often the first thing to go. They stop engaging, not because they don't love you, but because something inside is turning inward. You ever looked in the mirror and not recognized yourself during a hard time? That disconnect, that numbness, that's what this is. And it's heartbreaking. But here's the most important part. It's not too late. Eyes that grow distant can still come back. If you catch it early. If you act with intention. Because the moment he stops watching you is usually the moment he starts drifting away. And when the eyes go quiet, so does everything else. So ask yourself, when was the last time you saw the light in his face? If it's been a while, sign number 2 might hit even harder. It's about the one moment that used to mean everything. And now, it's just silence. You come home, the key turns, the door creaks open, and it's quiet. No paws skidding across the floor, no tail thumping the wall, no excited scramble, just stillness. And for a moment, you pause, you listen, you wait. But he doesn't come. You call his name, maybe even with a little smile, remembering how he used to rush in like you'd been gone for years, even if it was only 10 minutes. But now, nothing. And maybe you tell yourself he didn't hear you. Or he's asleep. or he's just being lazy. But how many times has it happened lately? Let me ask you something. When did that door stop mattering to him? Because greeting behavior isn't just about habit. It's emotional. It's joy. It's anticipation. It's their way of saying, "You're back. My world is whole again." So when that fades, when the sound of your voice or the click of your boots no longer pulls him up, it's not just about age, it's about disconnection. Sometimes emotional, sometimes physical, always meaningful. You ever missed someone so much and then slowly stopped expecting them to come back? That's what this looks like. And it doesn't mean he doesn't love you anymore. It means something inside him. Energy, hope, safety has dimmed. And if you're lucky enough to notice it while he's still here, you still have time to bring that light back. Because no dog stops greeting you for no reason. There's always a reason. And now, you know how to start finding it. But what if the reason he doesn't run to the door anymore is because he's already gone somewhere else? Somewhere quieter? Somewhere darker? Sign number 1 isn't a behavior. It's a place. And it's the one most people don't notice until it's far too late. He's still in the house, still lying near the couch, still eating, still breathing, still following some of his routines. But something feels off. He doesn't meet your eyes, doesn't respond to your voice the way he used to, doesn't join you when you move rooms. He's there, but not really. You reach down to pet him and he doesn't flinch. But he doesn't lean in either. You talk to him, and maybe his ears twitch, or maybe they don't. And a part of you wonders, is he still with me? Or is he already somewhere else? Because hiding isn't always under the bed. Sometimes it's right in front of you. Quiet, invisible, slow. A fading presence you don't notice until you start comparing the way he used to be with the way he is now. Let me ask you, when did his energy change? When did he stop checking in with his eyes, his body, his breath? Dogs are masters of masking pain, of shrinking just enough to not bother you, of pretending everything's fine until they can't anymore. And if he's still physically near you, but emotionally distant, that's not detachment. That's surrender. You ever felt like you were disappearing even while sitting in a room full of people? That's what this is. And the worst part, it's easy to miss. Because it doesn't come with noise. It comes with quiet. A silence so subtle most people only hear it when it's over. But you're not most people. Because you've stayed. You've watched. You've listened to every sign. And now there's one more thing to hear, not from him, but from yourself. Because now that you know, what will you do with it? Let's talk about that. It's time we close the loop and find the one moment that could still change everything. So now, you've seen them. 20 signs. Some small. Some haunting. Some that maybe you've already noticed, but weren't sure meant anything. Or worse, you noticed, but ignored, hoping they'd pass. But here's the truth. No one tells you dogs don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to pay attention. If even one of these signs felt familiar, if one moment made you stop and think, that's him, that's us, then you're already doing more than most. Because you're listening now. You're seeing what he's been trying to show you, maybe for days, maybe for months. And that matters more than you know. You ever wish someone had noticed something in you before it got too far? That someone had pulled you back before the silence settled in too deep? Now's your chance to be that someone for him. You don't have to solve everything today, but maybe you schedule a vet check you've been putting off. Maybe you sit with him a little longer tonight. Maybe you look in his eyes, really look and say, I see you. I'm here. Because it's not too late. He hasn't given up on you, not even for a second. He just needed you to notice. And now, you do. So, share this. Talk to someone. Check in with your dog tonight, tomorrow, and again after that. One small action can change everything. Because love isn't what you felt when things were easy. It's what you do when they can't ask for help anymore, but still hope you'll understand.